Hi folks, Steven here. So this is going to be another Pokemon Go Community Day recap. This one hopefully will go a little quicker, certainly than my London stream, where I recapped my time at London, which also included a Pokemon Go Community Day, very brief recap. But as usual, I have a presentation for this. Alright, so I'm going to get right started here with the weather. This was, of course, 2 days ago. This is Roggenrola Community Day. Be sure to type in any comments or any finds that you had in there. We always appreciate that. So let's see. So yeah, because of the somewhat unusual summer schedule, I do have a bit of an odd pairing here of July 17th, which was 2 months ago, and this month, Sunday, September 18th, both here in Madison. Technically, for last month, I was in Janesville, which is not too far off from Madison, and it's basically the same weather, but that was right before I went to London, so in any case. Let's see, so Sunday back in July, we had a high of 86 on a normal of 82, low of 53 on a normal of 62, and an average wind speed of 5.2 miles an hour. So a couple days ago, when we did this Roggenrola one, we had Sunday, September 18th, so it was, let's see, high of 81, normal of 72, so well above normal there. Even more above normal for the low of only 65, normal is 50. Average wind speed, 4.3 miles per hour. Today, in case you're curious, fairly warm today, since it got past 80, which is, again, well above normal. Source, of course, National Weather Service. Not out of the question for to have these temperatures in September, but definitely well above normal. Alright, so this is where I went. I'll admit here, I didn't have as much time as I wanted to dedicate to Community Day this time around, but I went to High Point Park, which is a park here on the west side of Madison. You can actually see, if you want, the actual address of the park there. So it's not, you may remember that back in June I went to McKee Farms Park, which is in Fitchburg. This park isn't quite as large. It's about the size of a city block. It takes up almost an entire city block there. You can see my Galarian Slowbro there. And, here's a pretty good picture that shows most of what the park is. Like I said, not, the hugest park out there, but still a very nice park in the west side. Now, don't let this map deceive you. There are stops and gyms in the area. They just had, unfortunately, when I took this picture, they had not loaded yet. But it should give you a pretty good idea of the shape and area of the park there. So, like I said, it's almost a city block. It's not quite square or anything like that, but you can sort of see the area there. Alright, so you may remember some of the earlier communities, they would say just field notes, name of the Pokemon. This time they went with Roggenrola, which I would be very interested to know, like they used to have all these things, all these different names for them that they would do that would usually be more punny. This is still sort of a pun, but you get the idea. In any event, what happened, I would like to know, because Roggenrola is a very, I would have to think, English colloquial term for a style of music, of course, that became popular in the post-World War II era. And I'd be interested in finding out if other countries have a different name for it and what they went with there. Because I assume this genre must exist in other countries and other languages, and I'm curious if they use a name there. So please let us know. But as usual, of course, let's see, it runs from, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. local time. That's weird. I'm just noticing this. This doesn't sound like the right time. Because that's very strange, because I know I was doing this. Someone let me know about this thing on here, because it says 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. local time wherever you are, and I definitely saw plenty of Roggenrola from 2 to 5 when I actually did this, so maybe they put the wrong time in the description there. Perhaps that was it. I'm just reading this through here, but I'd seen other places where they said 2 to 5, so that's interesting to say the least. Alright, so as you can see, I have the clock's time on my phone to prove it. It says 3:36 p.m., which is between 2 and 5, and I have an hour and a half or so left when I took these pictures. Like I said, I was taking care of some other stuff during this, so I apologize for this being perhaps a little light on content, but we will get through it because I do owe this to you more or less. More Roggenrola in the wild. Got the ticket, 2x catch candy, and chance to get Candy XL as well. You can see all stuff. The big other bonus, of course, is that hatch distance was greatly reduced. Took many fewer steps, so I definitely took advantage of that and put in a lot of eggs into incubators. Excuse me, for that time. And you notice there's also a test your metal. There's another day or so of that metal Pokemon stuff that's happening. Alright, so this doesn't happen too often, but I was able to make this, I guess, work today, however you want to say it. But I got 7-day streaks on both Pokestops and catches on the same day. That doesn't happen too often. The catch is usually not too hard. Getting a stop, really the hard part isn't getting to a Pokestop. The hard part is making sure I have slots in my items to spin the Pokestop and actually get something for it, because it doesn't count unless you actually get items from it, apparently. So that was a nice bonus. Obviously a ton of EXP bonus on there for the 7-day streak. Lets me make more progress. Alright. So, oh, look, Professor Willow is back. So he re-emerged from the ultra wormhole or whatever it was that pulled him in a few months ago. And he's here to tell us he's got a new look. I guess his hair, I don't know if he went to a stylist or if that was the part of the process there, but he's got a bit of a new look there. Talking about Roggenrola. So we get all these stuff, I believe, is pulled from Pokédex entries from the various games, which since Roggenrola is Gen 5, they don't have quite as much stuff to pull from. Over on the right-hand side, you can see they have, let's see, power-up, kind of the usual tasks. Power up Pokemon 10 times, catch some Roggenrola, and make 5 nice throws. So they're pretty much the normal stuff for this particular event. Alright, regular versus shiny. So on the left you have the regular Roggenrola, on the right you have the shiny one. The left one, I have to say, the main difference is the rock is a little more purple, and then the inside there, which I guess that inside there is apparently their ears, is more a deeper orange. And then their legs and whatever's on top of their head is a darker gray. It's almost... maybe this is geologically incorrect. I could be very wrong about this. But it almost seems like the shiny one might come from like a different layer of the Earth's crust or something like that. Or, like it came from a hotter place or a colder place or whatever in there. So that's just kind of speculation on my part, but that's about what I think of it. Alright, well, it didn't take me too long to get the additional stuff there. Yes, so that here we have Professor Will talking about Boldore and how about their energy and how they have those orange crystals on their bodies, hard enough to smash diamonds. So I did look this up when I was putting together this PowerPoint yesterday, and it turns out there actually are substances, I think most of them are man-made, that are actually harder than diamonds. I'm not sure if that's technically required to smash diamonds, or if any of them are actually orange, but I did look this up. There are substances known that are harder than diamonds. The one you might have heard of is graphene, which is another, like diamonds, a carbon-based thing there, but where it's like a single sheet. Graphene is one you might have heard of that has some incredible structural properties. They also mentioned in that article, it was on Forbes, that I read that they had a couple that were very close to diamond, but just below it. Alright, but in any case, we do get our second set of tasks here. We get catch 15 Roggenrola, transfer 10 Pokemon, and let's see, evolve 3 Roggenrola. So these are ones we've definitely seen before. So nothing too special. I do, as you may have seen if you've been watching these for a while, you may notice that I've been talking about the tasks not varying a whole lot in a lot of cases. I do think the ones for like Zigzagoon last month were a little bit different. I think. I'd have to double check my slides there. They're a little different. Certainly they had some extra bonus tasks to sort of tie in there. But for this one, I don't know, like maybe have you walk a bit, because it's supposed to be rock and roll. I don't know if the game can like measure you going downhill, which is, obviously what you would think there. But like I said, I would like to see a little more creativity with this. I don't want them to obviously do anything that would be too difficult for a certain set of folks, but in any case. Alright, yeah, I mentioned those eggs, didn't I? Well, I hatched a lot of them, both on Sunday itself and then some I packed in at the end of the community day. I packed those in, and those hatched yesterday. But Tortuga, I think is how it's pronounced, but one of the ones there. So I got that. That was a new Pokemon, which is always nice. And I also got, speaking of the Unova region, Gen 5, I've gotten up to 100 Pokemon. Of course, that was a big region because they started the main portion of the game has all new Pokemon in it, and so there's a lot to capture there. But I did manage to hit the 100 mark on that, and I'm fairly proud of it. So, all right. I caught Professor Willow. The way his mouth is moving almost looks a little bit. I don't know if angry is the right word, but actually it almost kind of looks like some sort of weird, like, glam rocker or something. He's saying some sort of lyric or something. But here he says that, like, the crystals on either Boldore or Gigalith have so much energy in them they could power a bunch of dump trucks. But, you see the tasks over there on the right. Make your curveball throws. Curveball throws, actually not too bad. I got the first two I tried on Roggenrola. Then I made the mistake of trying to catch a different Pokemon species, and I fell out of the groove. It took me a few more tries to get that third one, but overall was not too difficult. Roggenrola I guess it has a fairly generous circle on it, especially given its size. They certainly could have made it smaller. And it is not too far away from you, which tends to make curveball throws easier. You do have to evolve a Boldore and transfer a bunch of Pokemon, so pretty straightforward. Alright, this is what I want to show you. I did explore the neighborhood. This is not actually in the park itself, but it is nearby. There's some walking paths that go between some of the streets in the area, which are kind of interesting. I decided to take a quick picture with Galarian Slowbro on there. So everybody say hi to that. But it is like I said, it's not just a park, there's a whole neighborhood like any park around it. Alright, well I did obviously eventually evolve into Gigalith there, and you can see there, first of all, it was a new Pokemon for me, always nice. And then over on the right, you can see the special move you get, Meteor Beam. I think that's a special rock move, a very powerful one. I think it's maybe like Solar Beam. I think you charge first, then release it, as opposed to like Hyper Beam, where you use it first and then have to recharge. I think that's how Meteor Beam works. Not something I think you would normally use on a Gigalith, because like I said, I don't think it has very good special attack in the games, but Pokemon Go doesn't use that. But this would be a cool move, and it's nice to have a good, strong rock charge move for when you'd have to do raids and stuff against Pokemon that are weak to rock. Also an extra small Gigalith. So, not sure exactly what to say there, but alright, well here's the wrap-up. Like I said, orange crystal, so that it's magnified, fired from its mouth. It's even capable of blowing away a mountain. Well, did not test that one. Cannot vouch for that entry. Unlike the other one where I explained that yes, there really are substances harder than diamond, but you can see the final bonuses you get there. A few things, some experience, all that fun stuff, and I did get, of course, another event Gigalith. Alright, so notable stops and gyms. I'll admit, I'm stretching here. This park, unfortunately, doesn't have any notable art sculptures. I guess that's maybe a thing to tell to the city of Madison, that hopefully we can get that going. And there, so you see there's one for, the sign on the park there. There's one for the basketball course. I believe the soccer fields also have one. And there is one gym for the kids' playground there. So someone else must have been doing community day, because there's a Boldore in there. So it's pretty likely that someone else was in the area there. But unfortunately, I didn't get to do much in the way of raids, which was kind of too bad, really. Okay, some overall thoughts on the community day this time. So first off, double lucky sevens, 2 7-day streaks on the two sides of there on the same day. So let's see, Professor Willow is back. Good to have him back. I did like I said, I don't know if he was technically an astronaut the last couple months or whatever, but it's kind of interesting. They're working in some loose storylines into the game. Let's see. And next month, they've already announced, it's October, so they usually do a Halloween-type Pokemon for that. And it's going to be Litwick. Of course, the little candle Pokemon. Now, I'm fairly certain I do not have... I don't know if I have either of its evolved forms in Pokemon Go yet. I'm fairly certain I do not have Chandelure. Don't know about Lampent, but certainly looking forward to that. Other than that, yeah, fairly typical, and next month I'll try to go somewhere a little more exotic, if I can. Alright, well, we got some comments to go through, and I want to include some of this here. So yeah, this is our last live stream that we did a couple weeks ago. Recap, side events, and more, Pokemon Worlds 2022. So of course, last month was indeed Pokemon Worlds, finally. And did go out to London and come back there. So DDDL33 mentioned one of the things on my return trip is that at Heathrow, at the terminal we were at, they had a conveyor belt sushi or Titan Sushi restaurant. And if you've ever played, speaking of recent announcements, the mini games in the original Pokemon Stadium, you may have played Sushi Go Round, which is based on roughly the same concept. And so yes, they did have one of those there. I assume it must be popular with the tourists because I think they even saw some listed for one of or two of the other terminals there at Heathrow. So DDD admits that they would have eaten a lot, although their wallet may have constrained them in some regard. So let's see. Also want to congratulate me on my new car. So been driving the Tesla Model 3 that I got last month for a while. I don't actually drive as much as some folks do, maybe a couple times a week if I can manage it. I could actually walk to a lot of places. We'll see what happens when it gets colder in a month or two. Let's see. But he also talked about some of the merch there. So he did buy a Gengar shirt recently, so there you go there. Got a few more. One of them was you posted. This one, I'm not sure if it was on the recap or something else. Well, I think it must have been on the recap because I mentioned one of the comments he made on my tour video, I think it was. In any case, he wanted to know what I thought of the trip. So, like I said, if you want to know more about that, go ahead and check that live stream. And he thanks me for interacting with comments. I don't get to every comment, but I always try, as long as I can think of something, useful to say, I do put that as a response. And let's see, Chrono also congratulated me on the new car. Glad I had fun over there. It was a lot of fun there, although, like I said, when they announced Yokohama at the end, it's like, I'm so tired out from this trip, I don't even want to think about taking another overseas trip, even if it's a year away. I'm sure, assuming I get everything checks out for that, I'll enjoy it. But yeah, when they announced it, it's like, that's great. Don't want to think about that just yet. All right. Well, we got more comments to go through. Ah, yes, Michael Hagney. So yes, I just recently put out a video, and then also we'll talk about the podcast in a little bit. Michael Hagney, who was the localizer, or adapter, I guess. Adapter sounds like an inanimate object to me, so that's why I use the term localizer for a lot of this. But he performs adaptation on the Pokemon anime for the first couple seasons. He worked on about the first 4 movies. And he'll occasionally get brought in either for an episode title or for some other work in later parts of the 4Kids era. But he sort of talks about it. But I got a comment here from Blue Baron. Asked, is it easy to schedule an interview with him? Well, I can't answer that definitively, but my advice for these things is usually just to ask. Well, I would say the worst they can say is no, but usually the worst is I just don't get a response. That just happens sometimes. But you have 100%, near 99.9999% chance that they won't ask you. So unless you ask them first, so I say kind of go for it. So like I said, even though you might get no response or whatever, but I do also want to thank Michael once again for his time and stuff, as well as a few follow-up questions I asked him. So. Still kind of waiting, though, on that episode 7. Last time I checked earlier today, it wasn't out yet for the Wildflowers of Cerulean City on his podcast, so hopefully that comes in soon. Alright, speaking of podcasts, we have a bunch of new episodes I wanted to show you from the Pokecasters Network. Let's see, PokeScience, Steel Yourself, presumably this is about steel types, which I think is well-timed. I'm not sure if they got word on the steel type event in Pokemon Go, but obviously that is nice timing. Critical Hitmonlee, episode 72, Clayton's Month in Hiding. So there's, I guess, some... that's a tabletop podcast, so I believe there's probably some interesting lore going on there. Welcome to the World of Pokemon. Pokemon 106, Hitmonlee. I don't think that episode is a collab between the two, although that would be interesting. Let's see, Not a Scratch Arc 5, Episode 5. We're taking names, or naming names. Not sure if that's supposed to be... I mean, the taking names, it goes back further, but it's also associated with Reggie Fils-Aimé, former president of Nintendo of America. And then, of course, like I said, I have a new podcast episode out. It's the Michael Hagney interview, paired with an archival interview I did back in, 2014 with Kyle Hebert, who had a role in Pokemon Origins as Professor Oak, and he talks about that. All right. Well, as far as other updates, I'm still talking with Anne about when we're going to do. Hopefully, it's not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after, which is technically the first weekend in October. Hopefully, that is going to be our Pokemon Rumble discussion, which means this weekend I want to try and get a live stream of that up. The original Pokemon Rumble. Many iterations thereafter, but this will be the first one. So if you have any thoughts on the music or other thoughts on that game, please let us know. You can put a comment here or on anything else. And if you have a comment on one of our reviews, always feel free to put those in. I will try and get back to you on those as long as I can think of something useful to say. All right. Well, thank you very much, folks. Like I said, if you have any comments on Community or anything else going on the channel, please go ahead. Feel free to toss those in. We always appreciate that. All right, folks. Thanks.